Da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Hi there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. Today, very excited to check out the Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers deck building game from Cryptozoic. This is for 2 to 5 players, ages 15 plus. Take about 45 minutes to an hour to play. And in the Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers deck building game, this is an expansion slash standalone game that is in the Lord of the Rings universe. It's a very simple deck building system that Cryptozoic has here, but this has a Lord of the Rings theme. It's very similar to its predecessor, Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Rings, which I awarded a Bowers Best Seal too, but this adds a new wall mechanism in it. Does it make it better? Does it make it worse? Is it about the same? I don't know. Let's open it up and I'll tell you. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what's shooting inside of Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers deck building games. First and foremost, we got our handy dandy rule booklet. It is, 14 pages, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples. It's a very well-done rule booklet. Have you up and running in no time at all. And if you played any of the other deck builders in their system, you should feel very comfortable with this one. The only new addition is going to be the wall deck up here and the One Ring card, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So in this game, you're going to be playing as various different characters from the Lord of the Rings ethos, and you are going to pick out your character, or have it picked for you, and you're going to get 3 despair cards, which are bad. They give you 0 power. They're worth 0 victory points at the end of the game. Then you're going to have a courage, which will give you +1 power. Power is the currency you're going to need to purchase the cards out here in the buy row. There'll be various different kinds of cards, like allies, maneuvers, enemies, and then you'll have an arch enemy over here. These are the big bad guys that you're trying to defeat. They will give you a lot of victory points. This guy will give you 4 victory points. Also, when you defeat him, he will go into your deck, and he will give you a special ability, a very good special ability most of the time. So this one is +1 power and draw 2 cards. So that's a great card to have in your hand just for any circumstance. So, you're going to continue to do that. You're going to try and gain the most victory points. The game will end when you run out of these cards over here, which is going to be the buy cards, when you defeat all the arch enemies, or when your wall deck has completely ran out. And I'll talk a little bit more about the wall deck in a minute. Now, so you got your character. You got his special ability card, because each character is going to have their own unique special ability card. You're going to mix it in with your despair and your courage. We'll just put this guy right here. We'll just pretend that's what we have. You're going to set out the rest of the cards. You'll have Corruption up here, which is essentially like a curse if you're familiar with Dominion. So it's going to be -1. It just clogs up your hand. Not a good card to have. You're going to have Valor over here, which is going to give you +2 power, but 1 victory point. This is generally, if there's nothing cheaper than, say, 3 on the board, you have 3, and maybe you just don't want the thing on the board. This is always a good one to get. Solid card. Next, I do want to briefly mention these cards right here. I'm not going to reveal them to you because they even say that in the rule booklet. They are a little bit spoilerish. But these are the impossible mode cards. And let me tell you, they are incredibly difficult. Another thing is, I forgot to mention the pros and cons. If you're playing with 5 players, it's just attack city in the game. But anywho, so we got everything set up. We're ready to play the game. So, when you start the game, you're going to put your 10 cards. You're going to shuffle them up, and you're going to draw 5 cards, and you're going to see what you can purchase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you may notice up here is the One Ring. Now normally, in the original game, they had a Frodo character who would start with the One Ring. However, since this is the Two Towers, and they are taking the One Ring to the big Mount Doom so they can throw it into the fire, the One Ring will actually go from player to player, and there will be various different cards out here that when you play them, they will allow you to take the One Ring. The One Ring is very good. It's always going to give you +1 power, and it just sits in front of you. And the thing is, you can always use it as defense to avoid ambushes, which I have not talked about yet. So, when certain enemies come out, they will do what is called an ambush. Of course, I can't find one right now, but they will have an ambush. Here we go. And whoever's turn it is will have to deal with that ambush. So for this instance, I bought a card. It's the next player's turn. He has to draw a wall card when he puts this one out, which kind of stinks for him. Because now is a good time to talk about the wall cards. These are the wall cards up here. Depending on how many players you have, you're going to have various different amounts of wall cards. The wall cards you're going to draw when you can't avoid an ambush. Because some cards will let you play defense and you can avoid an ambush. For instance, this Legolas right here. You may discard this card to avoid an attack or ambush. If you do, draw a card and put a random wall card on the bottom of the wall deck. So for instance, you're going to get to do something special, and you're also going to avoid drawing one of these cards. Now these cards range in how good or, well, how bad they are. Really the good ones are the ones that don't do anything. So let's take a look at a couple of them. look at that one last. We got the Flood. Pull the top card of your deck into your discard pile. Discard a card from your hand, or each card with cost 5 or greater, discarded this way. No effect. So this is a good one. Devastation. Probably going to be a bad one. Let's see. Destroy a card with cost 1 or greater in your hand or discard pile. If you destroy a Breaching Bomb, draw a card. So normally destroying a card would be a good thing because you get rid of crappy cards, but this one you have to destroy one that costs 1 or more. Endless Enemies. Draw a card and then discard cards equal to its cost. So for instance, if you say drew this card off the top of your deck, you would discard all 5 of your cards and lose your entire hand. Yes, those wall cards are very, very nasty. You already have to do something bad when you get ambushed normally. That's just more bad stuff. Now, the Granddaddy, and this is in every single time you play, no matter what, this is going to be in your deck, so it's called the Breached card. And this card is permanently put in front of you, like a location. It will never go away, and it will always give you -1 power. It's just the ultimate screw you card. If you get this, first or second turn, that's just tough cookies. Well, I guess you can't get it first turn, but yeah, I guess you could if the person in front of you got it. But anywho, this is the worst card in the deck, but there's a lot of bad ones in there. Let's get back to here so I can show you how the game plays. I looked in here. I got 3 despairs. That's no money. I got 1 power, and I have my special ability. You may gain a card with cost 2 or less from the path and put it into your hand. Unfortunately, that does not apply right now, but instead I get +2 power, which kind of stinks for me because I have 2 power. Nothing is going to cost 2. I put all these into my discard pile, and I'd be on my merry way. Everyone else would take their turn again. Let's see what I got. Oh, I got $5. So we can start looking at some of the cards on the deck. Now, when you're or on the Biro, when you're purchasing, you can purchase as many cards as you can afford. They do not immediately replenish, though. So, I look over here and say, all right, I got 5. You know what? I think I'm going to try and get this enemy right here. Yeah, you may gain an ally with cost 4 or less from the path and put it in your hand. That could be a very valuable card to have early in your deck. So that would be the end of my turn. And now the next player would flip over the card, and if it's an ambush, they would have to deal with that said ambush. But anywho, you're going to continue going along, trying to destroy the arch enemies. When you do, they will go into your hand, your discard pile. You'll be able to use them as regular cards. You also reveal another enemy. Now, these have what are called group ambush effects. And those are going to be ambushes that everybody has to deal with. They're normally very bad. Each player reveals his hand and discards an ally. Each player cannot discard a courage instead. And if you have to do that, you also have to draw one of these cards right here. So it's just double bad stuff. But you keep going until this pile over here has run out, until all the arch enemies are defeated, or until the wall deck has completely ran out, at which point you tally up who has the most victory points, and that person will be the winner of Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers deck building game. Alright then, the Lord of the Rings, The Two Tower deck building game from Cryptozoic. What are my final thoughts? Let's go with the pros, let's go with the cons. First, on the cons side, the game's not going to be for everyone because it is a very simple deck building game. Some people also think it's a little bit too random. Some of the special abilities are way better at the beginning, some are better at the end, and sometimes people can get a lead that is just really insurmountable. Like if they get an arch enemy on one lucky thing, and then maybe they get another card with the next arch enemy, they can really, it has a little bit of a snowball effect to it. I definitely think that is a valid point, and I forgot to mention that in the first review, but it is something that is evident in this game, but it's more evident in this game because of the wall deck. The wall deck, the wall deck, the wall deck. Oh, God. The original Lord of the Rings deck builder is one of my favorite games. I gave it a Bowers Best Deal. So I was very smitten to play this game. I was excited to play this game. I read about the wall deck, and I was like, that sounds kind of cool. But in practice, the wall deck ruins this game for me. Now, it's not a terrible game, but it's not a good game. Like, this is not a game that I'm ever going to go for. If anybody ever asks me to play this, I'll try and steer them towards a different deck builder or towards a different one. Because the wall is just really mean, and it's random mean. Like, it's your turn, you're coming up next, you're like, hey, I got 5 power, I'm going to be able to buy this, and it's going to be great, it's going to be an awesome turn. And then someone purchases a card, and you get ambushed, you can't block it, you deal with the ambush, and then you have to deal with the wall card. Now, the wall card might be something just as random as say, hey, nothing happens. Well, that's fantastic. Or it might say, flip over the top card of your deck and discard whatever number that is. So you might completely lose your turn or nothing will happen to you. Just randomly because a card popped out into the biro. Now, it is thematic and that stuff happens, but it doesn't punish the person in first. It just punishes random people. Then, oh my god, the Breached card. There's a card called Breached that is always in the wall deck, no matter how many players you have. Because normally you might have less or more cards in the wall deck, depending on the number of players. However, there is a card that always goes in there called Breached. And Breached is -1 buy every single turn for the rest of the game, and you can't get rid of it. Period. There is no card. There is no combination of cards. There is no voodoo chant you can do to get rid of this card. And if you are unfortunate to go second, and somebody buys a card, and you get ambushed, you can't block the ambush, and this is the first card you draw, congratulations. You have lost the game on your first turn 45 seconds into the game. It's pretty much guaranteed at that point. There's just too much snowballing effect with the people in first with the wall cards, and the wall cards are mean and they're random, and I hate the wall deck, and it completely ruins this game for me. That's that simple. You know, it's still a decent deck building game. And if you like deck builders, then this is not a bad one to check out. But compared to the other deck builders, the first one, and Dominion, and Star Realms, and everything else, I recommend all of those more so. So let's get over to the pros. This is still a solid deck building system. I still like how the theme comes across with all the artwork. I still like the fact that you have your own unique card that's in your hand, and it comes up, and it's really cool. And they have some cool special abilities on this one. I like this as an expansion, and honestly, that's what really makes me recommend this game. Not as a standalone game, but as an expansion, just for all the cards. There's a lot of cool cards in here that really, if you add them to the original Lord of the Rings deck builder, I can't speak to the third one because I haven't played it. You'll see a review of that hopefully in the next couple months. But I have not played the third one. But excuse me, if you add this as an expansion, it's a great expansion. I like how the One Ring card works and how that gets passed around. And that's very thematic, as it happened in the movie where, Frodo didn't always have the One Ring because he couldn't succumb to the power. I like the fact that it always blocks something for you, but you're going to have to take the corruption. That works. And as an expansion, that works. But this wall deck is a terrible freaking idea, and it ruins the game for me, personally. So, Lord of the Rings Two Towers, it's as simple as this. If you're looking at it as a standalone game, do not get it. Period. Go get the first one. If you're looking at this as an expansion, get rid of the wall cards, and you got yourself a decent game. So that has been my review of the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers deck building games. Crappy game, good expansion. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know what is the worst expansion that you have ever played. I'm thinking off the top of my head, and this one might be it. I'm sure I've had some other ones that are reviewed pretty unfavorably, but that wall deck. I could just talk for hours about how much I hate that frickin' wall deck. Let me know in the comments below, has there ever been an expansion? Oh, and Third in Taxis, Power and Glory. Stupid expansion. This goes right up there as a stupid expansion, but actually a good expansion, but it's a bad standalone. You know what I mean. And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.